Is the supernatural irrational? Well, if you're going to say something is irrational, you have to say that it is illogical. So if someone makes a statement that supernaturalism is true, what logical fallacy is employed there, either formal or informal? And I'd be happy to see if you have some videos or some text comments that talk about that. Now, if God does exist, a theistic God, then we could say that miracles are at least possible. I think we could all agree on that, regardless of where we fall on the spectrum, that if God exists, that we could at least have the possibility of miracles. You can't rule that out anymore. You could, in fact, rule miracles out if God does not exist. You could rule them out altogether. So if you could show that God does not exist, then you could show that miracles are impossible. I would like to see some evidence for that. A lot of times if I say that miracles are possible or God exists, a lot of times someone would say, well, there's no evidence for God. And if I give some evidence, you say, oh, well, that evidence doesn't count because it's not naturalistic. It's like, wait. So what you're saying there is I could offer evidence so long as it agrees with your conclusion, which that really doesn't make sense. And that really does employ a logical fallacy, begging the question. If you assume your conclusion within your premises, then yeah, you'll be right every time. But you're not going to convince anybody. We cannot assume that some sort of metaphysical naturalism is true. When you could prove it, you'd have to justify it. You might say that, well, I've never seen it, or that I've never known anybody who's seen anything supernatural happen. And yeah, okay, so that's a far cry from saying that it doesn't exist and it cannot happen. So I ask you, why are miracles irrational? You might say that everything that agrees with me is rational. You know, if it's naturalistic and atheistic, then it's rational. If it is not atheistic, then it's irrational. Well, if you want to play those games, I mean, so can the Buddhist, and so can the Hindu, and so can the Christian and the Muslim. They can say, well, if you agree with me, you're rational. If you disagree with me, then you're irrational. If you're going to say something is irrational, that's saying that's not logical. And if you're going to say it's not logical, you're going to have to come up with an actual fallacy that's being employed. So if that's what you're actually saying, let's see it.